and suddenly jumped and rushed out of the library. What's going on? Did he see something? It was almost 10 years ago. I got a new job working at the reception counter of a library. This particular library had partitioned cubicles with curtains for privacy. "Hello, can I help you with the registration?" A young man asked for a seat in the farthest corner. He explained he couldn't stand the noise from an AC or people passing by. I found him to be too picky, but since there was one spot left in the far corner, I gave him the spot. "Here is your member card. Your spot is number 40. About 10 minutes later, he came back to the counter. He complained it was too cold and asked to raise the temperature a bit. I checked the current temperature, and the display on the thermostat read 79 degrees. Concerned if raising the temperature further might make others feel hot and uncomfortable, and being new to the job, I decided to call the manager to ask if we had any blankets available. The manager informed me that the spot I had just assigned always feels cold for no apparent reason, which is why the spot was left empty. He then instructed me to quickly switch to another spot. I went over to inform him about switching his spot. "You said it was too cold, right? Our manager said you could move to another spot." However, despite the offer to switch spots, this member refused. He said the spot is quiet and nobody is passing by in the aisle to bother him. Besides, he already settled in and had his stationery already set up on his desk. I knew it would be a waste of my time trying to convince this man to move as he showed a stubborn attitude. So, I took my manager's advice and brought out the blanket for this man from the storage room. It seemed like the library had finally quieted down. Soon after, the same individual returned with a complaint about another person sitting next to him, constantly clicking a pen and disrupting his studies, and requested it to be stopped. I was starting to get annoyed by this member's attitude, who seemed to find fault in everything, but since a complaint had been made, I felt obliged to address it. I went over to cubicle 39 and politely asked, "I'm sorry, but could you please stop the clicking noise?" Thankfully, member 39 just acknowledged it instead of disputing, I guess just to avoid further arguing and wasting his time. The noise incident seemed resolved, at least for now. However, the following day, a significant commotion erupted. "What's going on?" I went over to investigate and found member 40 and the adjacent member, member 39, in a heated argument. Member number 40 accused member 39 of making clicking noises with a pen. In response, member 39 claimed he had only been using a pencil due to the previous noise complaint, and then he raised his pencil to show there are no mechanical parts to make any clicking noises. Fed up with the ongoing harassment, member number 39 demanded to switch his spot immediately. In order to restore order and peace, I switched the spot of member 39 to another spot completely separated. But the problem didn't end there. Member 40 came back again. Knowing that spot 39 is now empty, this time accusing member 38, who sat next to spot 39, was the one making clicking noises with a pen. Without fail, member 40 complained several times a day about the clicking noises. But it was strange. When I asked other members, nobody heard the clicking noises that member 40 was talking about. Eventually, member number 40 took matters into his own hands. He started going around each cubicle, trying to find out who was making the clicking noises and disrupting other members in the process. It was the day after the big exam. Perhaps because the exam was over, there were no members present for studies except for just one, member number 40. Being alone with this crazy member in the library felt a bit uncomfortable. Feeling uneasy, I found myself watching him through the CCTV screen from behind the counter. However, something was very strange about this man's behavior. He was pulling out his hair and then going around each cubicle, opening each curtain one by one. I thought he was looking for someone who was making the clicking noise, not realizing there was no one there except himself. I thought he was just crazy. As I continued to watch him on the CCTV screen, he stood still in the middle of the library for a while before slowly walking back to his cubicle. Then, as he pushed a curtain slightly to the side, he seemed startled, as if he saw something, and suddenly jumped and rushed out of the library. What's going on? Did he see something? I was somewhat bewildered by his strange behavior. The next day came, and the next. Member number 40 never showed up again. Eventually, under the manager's instruction, I headed toward cubicle number 40 to clear out the belongings member 40 had left behind. Finally, the problematic member is now gone. With a big sigh of relief, I approached the cubicle, but I was immediately met with a chill. That crazy man was right. It was really cold in this cubicle. Then I heard a noise. It sounded like clicking from a retractable pen when you push the end repeatedly fast. I realized this must be the noise that member 40 complained about every day. But who's making that noise? There is no one here but me. I leaned in to listen carefully, and it seemed like the noise was coming from under the desk. At that moment, I remembered that member 40 rushed out of the library the other day, and I also felt it was my duty to check what's going on. I strongly felt that I should take a look under the desk. As I slowly lowered my gaze, I saw a woman with a smirk, crouched down and making the clicking noises with a retractable pen. At that moment, with a loud scream, I was so startled that I instinctively covered my face with both hands. Slowly, I lowered my hands and glanced around again, but the woman had disappeared without a trace, as if she had evaporated into thin air, leaving behind an eerie emptiness underneath. Perhaps member 40 had seen the same thing I just saw and had been startled, prompting him to run away. It dawned on me that it could only be a ghost. Ever since that day, the woman ghost has been haunting me, accompanied by clicking noises. The pale face of the woman with a smirk on her face I saw from under the desk on that day kept haunting me to the point of insanity. Couldn't take it anymore. Eventually, I decided to quit my job. A week later, I mustered up the courage to revisit the library to retrieve the belongings I had forgotten to take. However, to my surprise, the woman whom I hadn't seen before was sitting at the counter. I explained. I used to work here until last week, and I came back because I left my belongings here and forgot to take them. After exchanging greetings, that's when I learned that she used to work here before me, and now she's returned to work here again. As I gathered my things, I remembered that moment of horror and stared at the direction of cubicle number 40 for a while. The woman behind the counter noticed my distraction and asked,
"Did you happen to see it? I mean, did you see anything unusual?"
"What do you mean?" Unsure of how to respond, I pretended not to know, fearing that if I mentioned seeing a ghost, she might think I'm crazy. She continued,
"Have you noticed anything peculiar about that area? You know, about 7 or 8 years ago, there was a woman who was preparing for the civil service exam in cubicle number 40 in this library. She kept failing the exam and became so disappointed every time she failed, and those disappointments became hopeless despair and tragically took her own life. Since then, people have complained about hearing clicking noises coming from that spot and feeling cold, so we left that spot empty. Did you happen to see anything?"
It was at that moment that I realized. The woman I had seen, coupled with the mysterious clicking noise, can be heard only in cubicle number 40. Could it have been the lingering presence of the woman who was habitually clicking a pen while studying? It must be the last trace left behind by that woman, asking anyone to recognize her presence.